Hello there and welcome to this quick chat about chatbots. In the following 15 minutes, we will be talking about the main mistakes that make your chatbot non-human friendly and get your users saying they hate talking to chatbots. At the end, I will share with you my top 3 ways to fix it so you can implement right away. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Wendy Molinares and I'm CMO at Top the Table. Like the name says, it was born to serve restaurants and help them have a smart and plug-and-play solution. But currently, a wide range of industries have been using it to automate their communications, which have allowed me to work and build for and with companies like restaurants, other hospitality brands, heavy forestry industries, and even politics. With that experience, I can assure you, people do not hate talking to chatbots. Let me repeat that. People do not hate talking to chatbots, but they do hate feeling ignored. According to recent stats, 40% of users don't mind if the right answer comes from a human or from a bot. And up to 30% of users don't even know if the last chat they had was with a human or with a chatbot. So the question is, why do people say they hate talking to chatbots? Let's solve that question. First of all, let me ask you this. Do your clients love your chatbot or is it a total flop? Have you ever questioned yourself if you should disconnect it and go back to human-only chat? For the time I have been developing bots, I can confirm to you that people do not hate technology. I repeat, they do not hate chatbots. In fact, according to recent surveys, 40% of users don't care if it was a human or a bot as long as they got their answers. And almost 30% are not even sure if their last chat was with a human or not. This means they just hate feeling ignored. Let me present to you the 3 bot building deadly sins. Number 1, lack of flexibility. This is when users have to think or wait too much to get from point A to point B, many times having to deal with this huge maze to get to their goals. This is the number 1 problem for new builders. They have this amazing idea map in their minds about how users should navigate inside the chatbot, but the users are not willing to do that and cannot imagine how to do it. Number 2, too much text. User is given a huge block of text and is expected to read it carefully, find the information he or she needs, and then take the proper action or follow instructions. On the other hand, we, the developers, hate when tutorials don't go straight to the solution we're looking on YouTube. So why do we torture our users? Number 3, no escape hatch. Once the user is in, there's no way out. And it's the same for both sides. Either the user cannot find the answers he or she needs, or the bot harasses him or her with information he or she doesn't want. At the end, both end up with spam. For one side is a lot of angry messages from the client, and on the other, they get a lot of, "Hello, how can I help you?" Now let's talk about the best ways to fix this. First one, use keywords, please. This might sound obvious for some of you, but I have seen way too many bots lacking keyword variation or at all. Listen to your users. Research how they type and list all the keywords and the variations they might use. Do not expect them to be a grammar Nazi. They will always have some grammar mistakes, some spelling mistakes, and you need to be prepared for that. Now, notice that sometimes your keywords will need to use conditions to get the feeling of the context. This is not always easy to accomplish, but in some cases is a must. Let me show you my very favorite example for these kind of cases. When users type "thank you," the usual thing is for you to have some comment that says, "You're welcome," or "It was a pleasure to help you," something like that. The problem is that sometimes we get a "thanks for nothing," so the bot becomes sassy instead of helpful. Now, let's pass to the second one, and I will call it Kiss Your Bot. In this case, KISS will stand for Keep It Super Simple. Your goal is to make the user think as little as possible to get his or her desired outcome. Remember the first problem we saw with the big, huge maze? Okay, let's fix that one. Your text should be short and to the point. You have to use emojis to present your ideas faster. And when asking a multiple choice question, please give real options. There's nothing worse than about asking you something like, I don't know, your favorite color and giving as options only red and darker red. If none of above could be an answer, give it as an option. This would help you prevent users from getting lost and finding ways to break your bot's flow. And now, my favorite of all, the not soup for you approach. If you ever watch Seinfeld, you might already know where this is going. Use your default answer wisely and not just as an endless hello message. The way I love to build default replies is using this. 1. An error counter. 2. An option reduction. 3. A 3-strike scheme. And 4. A clear error rule. The logic is the following. Whenever a user gets the default reply, it means the bot didn't know what to do. Either the user didn't follow instructions or is looking for something the bot cannot solve. So, we will count how many times the user has triggered our default reply and we will respond accordingly to that number. Example. If this is the first time, we can say something like, sorry, I didn't understand that, but here you can find, and we can give them a wide range of options like frequently asked questions, contact options, freebies, or whatever we have inside our bot. On the second time, we can reduce them with something simpler. Oops, I got lost again, but you might be looking for contact humans, product info, or something that is our top requested detail from our bot. On the third, I usually like to take away the keyword and provide only bottom options so I can force them to choose one. If this was a spammer, they usually don't continue. If this is a real user, now it's easier to navigate. In my case, I usually like to only leave a message for humans bottom and give them back the keyword just for them to type the message. Then I take it away again. If you don't have any chat support and you don't want to have it, this is the stage where you can introduce your support email or create a ticket in the system you already use. The rule at the end will be to reset the error counter to 0 after a number of hours. Personally, I go with 8 after last interaction. Bonus tip number 1. To discourage spammers, make a habit to list unwanted keywords like bad words or data-specific text that you already have identified as a spam, such as get 5 billion followers for just $1, and things like that. This keyword should trigger a rule that will tag or mark the user, and then, just then, you will unsubscribe it from your bot. For this to be actually helpful, you will need to add a condition at the beginning of every single one of your models or sections. This condition will ask the bot, is this user marked as a spam? If so, then nothing. If not, go ahead. You might be thinking, but Wendy, we already unsubscribed the user, so they shouldn't trigger anything. And yes, you're right. Still, there might be cases where you would like to give your user in general a way to re-engage or subscribe again to your bot, especially when in retail. In those cases, you want to make sure that even when a user re-engages or subscribes again, your bot remembers that this user is not someone you want your human team to lose time with. Usually, the lack of response will be enough for the spammer to stop. This and the not sub for you approach will be key for you to reduce the number of users that get frustrated inside your bot. Bonus tip number 2. Write your bot copy using the words your ideal client will use. For this, you will have to analyze some conversation samples, and even when it can sound like way too much work, This will help you reduce friction and give your user a human-like sensation, even when aware this is an automated conversation. And finally, bonus tip number 3. Set expectation. I cannot emphasize this enough. Set expectation. The user should know at all times what your chatbot expects from them and what to expect from your chatbot. Example, if you will collect some details like phone, name, and email, then you can tell them something like this. Let me help you with that, but first, I'll ask you 3 questions, or any number that you are going to actually ask. And then, with each question, you will add 1 out of and the total of questions. In this example, it will be something like 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, and so on. Something else that is super important in this matter will be to tell them when you have finished and what to do next. Thank you, I got your details, and I will send them to our sales team for them to contact you. It usually takes X amount of time, like 24 hours, 72 hours, whatever time you take to actually answer. And they will call you at the phone you provide, and you will repeat the phone number they just gave you. At the end, you have to add something like, now you can close the chat window. This last part is essential for me because it leaves no question whether the conversation is over or not. You can also add something like, or you can learn more about our product here, and give them some option to go to YouTube or your landing page, your website, or wherever you have more details or more information that you would like your user to know about the product you are offering. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope this helps you have better automated conversations, and I'll be here in the chat solving some questions.